All of the sides have been treated with clear, and this has been left 2 or 3 hours to go off. If you can leave it overnight, even better. So we're now in a position where we can start thinking about actually attempting to do some lining. Excuse me. So the first thing I need to do is open up the Humble buff and just give it a good stir with the cocktail stick. Till it's nice and smooth. As I pointed out in the other video, it's actually quite thick, but that's ideal for use with a ruling pen. So there we are. And then to charge the pen, this was done off camera I think on the other videos, just a question of taking some of the paint, brushing across the tip, and then just wiping the excess off from the outside of the blades. Straight away did that off camera. So just wipe the outside. So you leave the pen charged like that. So it's back to our treated styrene, and just check that the pen is physically flowing. I'm having difficulty seeing that myself, so let's just adjust the opening of the pen. Now I'm getting a clear line. Width wise, I might be able to go a little bit thinner. Let's just try it. So I'm looking for the thinnest line I can get, basically, that flows well, and that there's not doing a bad job. So I think on that basis I'll use it to start doing the actual side. So as before, I'm going to start by doing the vertical beading and then leave the paint to dry and then do the horizontal beading. So this is the side I'm using. This is a 3D printed side I produced as an experiment a while back. So it's not a complete side. It also does mean I can lay it flat on the board, which is quite useful. I'm going to mess around trying to pad it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. I do hope my head is not going to be in shot. Start by doing the line on that vertical bead, and that really has come out thin. Now this one, I've got a lower beading to think about at the same time. As you see, I'm just working my way along, doing each vertical as I come to it. Right, I tried to add spacers using card. It's a bit on the thick side, so I've decided for the rest to just rest the ruler directly on the side, which just means I've got to be a bit careful it doesn't slip and rotate. Do the line thus. Now for these sides, unfortunately I didn't teak all the way to the end. So I'm going to have to, you're going to have to pretend this is teaked, which might mean that the paint won't show very well. Let's just try putting a line there. And you may remember from the earlier videos that the panelling either side of the doors doesn't get lined. So I'm now going to just do the bits on the lower beading. The reason I'm doing this is because you now hit a problem. With the line here. Now you could let all that dry and you could then line it at a later time, or if you're impatient like me, you'll turn it around, just lift the ruler up a little bit so it doesn't touch the back here. Actually, looking at it, this has got the hinges in place, so there's a good possibility that the ruler won't touch the wet paint anyway, but just in case, I'm just going to stand the ruler off, just holding it with my thumb, so I can just then run paint along the edge like that. Right, now the other thing I pointed out in the previous video is that on LNER stock the lines don't actually go to the ends of the beading. So one of the things I can do is I can just damp a brush in white spirit and then just take back the ends of the lines just a fraction, so they don't actually go right to the end of the beading. And this would be the opportunity to clean up any mistakes. Now, by sheer miracle, it's actually gone quite well. Actually, I'll tell a lie. No, it's okay, I'll leave it at that. I'm just going to take these back. The lines could be a little bit more consistent and not as neat as they could be, so let's just take that back a bit. Try and remember to angle this towards the camera a bit more. So I'm just tweaking the lines. A little bit, just to take them back. Basically, you keep doing this until you're happy with them. So let's say you've made a mistake, then what you can do is just dip a cotton wool pad in some white spirit and just find the line that you want to remove, gently wipe it down there, and you'll see the painters being cleaned off, and then you can reapply the lining. Now, because I've done that, of course, I've now got to hold the ruler at an angle, redraw that in. Like so. There we have the the vertical lines on the side, ready to allow us to do the horizontals. Now, unlike in the previous videos when I said a couple of hours would be enough, put that aside, leave it until that buff has gone off properly. I said 2 hours yesterday, it's probably nearer 4, but the key thing is make sure it's not tacky when you pick it up and do the next process. So this is the end that we did earlier, and I'm going to have a go at lining that now. I've found a piece of wood that will allow the end to sit reasonably flat. It's got a slight projection there. That's okay, I should be able to cope with that, I hope. Again, from the previous video, I had a piece of plastic card or a piece of styrene that was shaped to match the curve of the outer beading, and a piece of blue tack on the back as a means of helping to fix it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to try and line that up. That's an awful job I've made of that. Let's try again. Okay, the template has been put in place, and I know I said I'd use that as a rest, but I think I'm going to do it by hand. I'm just going to run the pen along the outer beading. Like so. Hopefully you can see it. I'll take this off. And there you have the outer line done. So now I'm going to use the ruler. And this one is harder because there's a rain pipe down. It gets in the way of the beading to its side. That's just there. Now I've turned the ruler so that the bevel's on the top for the simple reason there's so much end detail on here, it's forcing the ruler away from the side anyway. That one's proving a bit tidy up, that one. And the other one's buried under the pipe work. So that's what I've got. I can't say I'm particularly happy with that line at the bottom, so I think I'm going to erase it. It's not actually on the beading, believe it or not. So just very, very gently eradicate it with the white spirit. I think I'm going to tidy up the line just above it as well, because it's getting a bit thick where it's wandering off a bit. That's better. Let's try and put that bottom one in again. Try and actually get it in place this time. And that disappears behind the jumper cable. That's a lot better. A lot better. So I've just got to do the other side as well now. So obviously the styrene needs the blue tack taking off. Putting on the other side. gets rid of some, a lot on there. Probably don't need. Yeah. So now I can again try and fix the position. And when I'm reasonably happy with it, I'll try and draw in that peel it off. Actually, that went quite well, but I think I did have a little bit of a wobble near the bottom, so I'm just going to tidy that up a little bit. Like so. So now I can just draw in the remaining verticals. Turn the ruler over. Try and do the lining inboard of the pipe. The pipe is a pain as far as painting is concerned. Because it's tending to push the nib off in the process. Do that one. It should be the last of the verticals on the end. Like so. Again, that one's a bit wobbly. As I say, it was forced over by the pipe. So I'm just going to take that inboard just a little bit. There we are. So it probably looks a bit thick here where the downpipe is, but remember that will be painted, so that will cover some of the lining, assuming I can do it neatly enough. So that's all the vertical lining for the end. So like the side now, we can put that to one side for however long it takes for the paint to go hard before tackling the bottom edge. Having said that, because this one's got filler pipes, actually there's a bit of one there I've missed. Because this one's got filler pipes, there's actually no bottom edge exposed. So not necessarily a good choice of end to do as an example. So there's just a tiny little bit of beading at the top there that didn't get picked up. It's now been drawn in. I'll fudge a little bit of the bottom beading when the time comes. Okay, so say put that to one side to set or to go off. I'm now going to clean the ruling pen, and as I say, the benefit of the having a one that opens like that is you can get at it. Give it a good wipe. I'll just give it a quick dip in the white spirit just to give it as clean as we can. I'll do a more thorough cleaning job a little bit later. And then we can put the whole thing to one side till we're ready to use it again. The vertical lining is now dry. Having said that, while it was drying I went through and reviewed the videos I've done so far, and there's a few things I've noticed that I would just like to take a little bit of time out and just cover again now. So this is the ruling pen I'm using. Now the one thing, every time I've adjusted the line width, I've tended to end up doing it off camera. So the little wheel on the side is the thing that adjusts the closeness of the blades. The other thing I've noticed is that quite often when you see me lining, I'm doing it like this. So the pen is being held at something like about 40 degrees, and I'm not 100% convinced that's the best way. So I thought, let's do a little experiment. Let's just charge the pen with some paint. I'm going to wipe off the surplus as before. Get muck on the tip. That's it. Now the shape of the tip is quite fine, so if I'm drawing at an angle, I'm actually using quite a long length of the nib there. So let's start off and let's draw a line as I normally do it. Now you'll notice in some of the videos I've had to move the pen nearer to the vertical, and you'll notice that it works just as well when it's near vertical. Now I believe the best theory says you should actually hold the pen vertical. So I'm in the very, very bad habit of drawing at an angle. And that might be why you see me having to keep using the pen repeatedly compared to holding it at a higher angle. So I'm going to attempt now to do the sides, finish off the So I'm going to attempt to finish off the horizontal lining, and I'm going to try, which is something that I'm really not in the habit of doing, holding the pen a little bit more vertically. So for this exercise, obviously I need to decide how I'm going to hold the thing. Now if I'm going to do the 3 horizontals at the bottom and start like that and work down, I'm going to very soon run out of being able to clamp the model and stop it moving around when I do in the lower. If on the other hand I do it this way up, I can actually then start with the base and work my way along. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. So let's have a go. Hold the pen. I must admit that does appear to be flowing quite well. I'm only able to go back occasionally, although I suspect that's more out of habit than necessity. Let's just draw those in, just so I complete the side even though it hasn't been teaked. Okay, that seemed to go quite well. So I clearly have a habit I need to break, and I need to learn to hold the pen more vertically as I use it. I'm not really in a position to redo all the earlier videos, so I'm going to have to take this as my advice for moving forward. So let me just check the tip to make sure I haven't picked any dust up. It does happen, so just be aware of it. Okay, so the bottom and the middle beading is done, so I'll just now do beading on the top. Again, trying to hold the pen in a more vertical position. Now I'm probably holding it at about 80 degrees. Which should mean I'm using the fine points of the blades rather than the edges. Trying to see if I've gone off the beading there. Does happen. Sometimes it's almost impossible to see what you're doing. I think I've gone off the beading there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly get a Q-tip, just damp it down. I think I'm going to wipe that bit of the lining like so. And I think I'm going to redo that bit, because I'm not convinced I was actually on top of the beading when I did it. It's surprising the difference lighting can make to this. You really need good lighting, good visibility. Now I wear glasses, I have a pair of reading glasses, and what I've done this time around for this is I've clipped on some 2x magnifiers to the reading glasses in an attempt to be able to see what I'm doing. Largely it's proved to have worked. However, certain lights with the reflections coming on, it's actually very difficult to see exactly what's going on. Now, there's one little bit down there that needs tidying up. So I'm just going to damp the brush and just rectify it. That's better. So that's the side done. So that can now be put to one side to dry off. If you're going to go further than this, then the next stage is to apply the transfers, and when the transfers are applied you can then give it another coat of clear, and again that will seal the transfers in, and then you're ready to either leave it as it is, or if you want to weather it, it's a good time to weather it, but I don't intend to cover that in these videos. So that's the side done. Let's go back to our friend the end. So this is how the end has come up. It's looking pretty good. At this point I would line the bottom horizontal beading, but as I pointed out earlier, the beading is actually hidden by the point work. So in reality on this end there's not a lot to line, but there is just one tiny place where I can sneak some lining in. As before, I'm not going to worry about the bevel part of it. And the one little bit that is visible is just there. And what's that with that? Let's turn it round. Again, trying to get an angle on this can prove very difficult. So, combination of trying to see what I'm doing and get an angle. There you are. So normally you would draw it all the way along. I think that's about as far as I'm going to be able to go on lining the end. So there you have it. Hopefully I've achieved the objective of giving you a closer view of what is going on. Good luck with any painting projects you do. Hope it helps.